morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 16th, 2014. And this is Before the First Cup with Jules and Zorie on UCY.tv. Good morning, Zorie.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Okay. And you?
Pretty good.
Yeah, is your allergies getting better?
On a daily basis, it wanes. I didn't eat cashews, so my throat,
That's good.
tongue, and mouth is no longer swollen. I slept probably 3 days at a good 12 to 16 hours, so I think I'm recovering.
All right. Well, the body needs rest to heal.
Oh, my God. I don't think I've slept in 2 years, so I'm kind of catching up.
They lied to us here again. No rain. They said it was going to rain Thursday night. We got wind and big black clouds and not one drop of rain.
Wow, really?
Yeah, weird.
I just saw that they are predicting that we are going to be stuck in a polar vortex again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's exactly those were the exact words that left my lips. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm getting ready to batten down the hatches here. I made sure this summer I got out and did some stuff because it was just such a long, miserable winter that lasted, 9 months, just about?
Yeah, we didn't have no fall, it didn't seem like last year.
Yeah, this year our fall started in August.
Yeah, I noticed that. But us, it's still summer, more or less.
For all of Cali or just your area?
All of California. I was talking to my mom yesterday, and down in Southern California, not a drop of rain. Even when the 2 days we got rain up here, they never received any.
Wow. So here's something I wanted to ask you about. So yesterday I did a whole show, part one. Today's going to be part two because I have about 40 stories that I still didn't get to yesterday. I started with health, in particular, my health problems over the last 20 years. Discovering that it was probably what I was eating. And then some of my research that after then, probably the last 10 years or so, what I've discovered that they've been putting in our food that probably caused all of my issues. And I want to tie some of this GMO stuff into now the Ebola vaccine and the GMO 2.0 that Monsanto was working on using the exact same technology that they're going to put in some of these experimental I can't even say it's too early. We'll just call them vaccines. They're not really, though. They're calling them some sort of immunology, whatever. But what I was wondering is, so some of the GMO technologies that they've come up with over the last few years, and maybe even longer than that, because I believe that they started sprinkling them around in places like Africa long before they ended up here, was drought resistance. So California's had massive droughts. They couldn't plant because there was no water. I'm just curious, why did Monsanto not go in there and offer the poison apple?
That's a good question, huh? Because if it's water resistant, it doesn't need water.
Well, drought resistant, which
Drought
is what they were making them for in Africa.
That is strange.
I don't know.
Maybe
thought
they're
you'd
waiting
know a little
for
more.
the farmers to sell off their lands for a penny on the dollar. Then they'll go in and do it. I don't know.
Well, so do you know anything about any of the economics that are going on there right now with all these farmers who weren't able to plant crops?
Well, I know all the farm workers are out of work. I mean, there's thousands of farm workers that aren't working, period. Most of them have moved away.
Are they all migrants?
No, probably 50-50 or 60-40 maybe. But a lot of them, that's what they do. You know, they live there. Most of them live near or on the farms. And so I know a lot of them have moved away. But yeah, and then farms have gone under. Lots and lots of farms have gone under. In fact, it said that Pelosi's husband and his brother have bought up a lot of the farms down south.
I haven't seen that.
It's been, well, it's in the local papers. It's been in the local papers here for a while. And they're something about post offices too, old post offices. But yeah, other than that, and food prices are going. A jar of peanut butter. I was at the store day before yesterday. I was gonna buy some peanut butter. $17
For
a jar of peanut butter.
well, not here. It's not.
Well, you guys got all our rain. You can grow peanuts. I don't know.
Yeah, peanuts grow in Georgia though, so I don't see how that affects California.
I don't know, but that's how much. 12.95, 17, and I got the lowest one, and it was 8.95.
Yeah, for a big jar, that's probably. I don't know.
No,
I
no, no,
haven't
no.
bought peanut butter in a long time, but
For a small jar, the average size jar, not the big jar.
yeah, maybe that's a California thing. I have not seen $18 peanut butter here.
It's coming. Yeah, I mean, every time I go to the store, though, everything has gone up, maybe $1 or $2. Everything, across the board. It's. I don't know if people are taking advantage of it. The fact that the farmers aren't producing or whatever, but I know every time I go to the store, it's $1 or $2 higher. So, are you guys seeing any of that back there?
Well, I talked about this yesterday. I mean, your consumer price index is going up across the board for one reason or another. I mean, obviously they had to call all the animals because they couldn't grow crops. So, I mean, beef is pretty expensive. You want to talk about a halfway decent steak is going to be between $13 and $17 for a steak. I mean, that's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
Can't afford those too often. But even chicken, like I've been shocked by the price of chicken. Now, this past weekend, I was down in the country and I went to one of the local grocery stores. They had some local chicken, 4 bone-in chicken breasts for $7. And I mean, they were monster chicken breasts, organic farm, local. And I mean, that's unbelievable because normally you'd go to one of your regular grocery store chains and that would be like $17 for a flat of chicken.
Wow. Yeah, because I pay about 7 for mine, and at the health food store.
For
Mm.
4 large
For,
bone-in chicken breasts?
no, really for thighs, 4 thighs.
Oh yeah, I
I
don't.
pay 7 something.
Yeah, that's. I mean, here you can get that pretty inexpensively for the thighs.
Mm.
But I mean, I think it's going to affect all of us. I mean, I would pay attention if there's $18 peanut butter because that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. And eggs or everything, just everything's going up every time I go. And I usually go shopping about once a week. So,
Yeah, I have a source for eggs. My friend has. She started out with like 4 chickens, and now she's got like 15.
all right, she'll get a few dozen every day then.
Yeah, she gets anywhere from 6 to a dozen a day, and
Yeah.
I left with a whole dozen in my mailbox this week.
All right.
So
This
that was
lady
awesome.
locally here, there's a restaurant down the street from me, and they have those flats for 8 cartons, and they just throw them out. So I asked them if I could have them. So I in turn give them to her, and she gives me a discount on my eggs. So that works.
Actually, that reminds me, I was going to message my friend and ask her if she wanted me to save milk crates.
Hmm. And also, you can use them for fire starters. Fill them with wax. Excellent fire starters for in the wind or anywhere.
Yeah. We tried one of those with the toilet paper and the lint. It didn't work too well.
Toilet paper and lint. I don't know
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, that didn't work too well. We did some survival experimentation about a month or so ago to see what would start fires the best, and that one did not work too well.
Huh. Yeah. Well, the wax in the egg cartons, the paper ones. I mean, I've been using those for years when we go camping or anything out there. Even in your fireplace, it doesn't leave any residue, and you can just forget about the kindling and just put your logs in. Works real good.
Well, if you buy the fire starters, that's kind of what they're made out of.
Hmm.
They're like little wax bricks. I think though those fire starters that you pay $30 for a box of them are absolutely ridiculous. I found a place that had they were like 1/20th of the size fire starter, and it was pretty much the same stuff, but just in a little slice. And I had always cut them anyway. I'd use a scraper for like scraping plaster, and I
Hmm.
would cut my fire starters. But for $3, I can get a package of 10 of these little slices of fire starters, and they start a fire just fine. But
Yeah, a lot of times I go to the
so
dollar store and buy their candles. I think you get 2%, 10 candles for $1, and then all the candles after you're through burning them, I just melt them down, pour them into the 8 cartons, and I got a whole box full outside. That didn't cost me anything really,
hmm
and you just break off one or two, put them down, light them up, and you go. It's in the wind, it doesn't matter anything, so I don't have to pay nothing.
hmm
So, and it smells good. I put cinnamon sticks
Yeah,
in
those
there.
are pretty toxic. I don't know if you ever looked into that, but
Yeah, some of them, but I sent mine with the coconut. I mean, with beeswax. Beeswax burns really good.
hmm just that scented stuff is pretty toxic.
Yeah, but with the beeswax, it puts a nice scent to it, and there's no added to it. In fact, I gave one year, I gave out beeswax candles for birthdays and stuff, and they burn clean. No black stuff comes off of them.
hmm
They're neat, and they're fun to make. Oh, I made apple butter yesterday. Oh, it's so good. It tastes so much better than store bought. I made 12 jars.
Mm, that's nice.
Yeah, so good. And I make it with honey instead of brown sugar. And then just, oh man, just want to eat the jars up.
Um, Speaking of apple butter, I want to get back on my topic from yesterday, talking about
Okay.
GMOs and some of the stuff. One of the stories that I did not get to yesterday, and I don't know if putting all of these documents into a notepad is really going to be helpful because now it's just a blurb of text. But yeah, here it is. All right, I wanted to share this with you guys because this. Nothing's copying. Hold on one
Okay.
second. Let me see if I can make this copy. Now paste. There we go. Computer needed a little bit of remedial aid. Let me see if I can pull myself in. I don't know if anyone saw, but they are now working on genetically modifying apples.
Oh
I was
no.
like, not apples. I mean, apples are one of my joys in life. New York State is one of the apple growing capitals of the world.
And the Wall Street Journal says federal regulators are considering whether to grant approval for a genetically modified apple, which, when cut open, will not brown. Farmers have lobbied the Agriculture Department to ban the so-called Arctic apple. They say it threatens the fruit's reputation as a healthy, wholesome food. If approved, it would be among the first fruit products required to carry a genetically modified label. They're saying they hope that this can do for the apple what the baby cut carrot did for carrot sales.
Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how people respond to something with a genetically modified label on it.
So, we don't want brown apples after they sit forever out somewhere?
That's crazy.
I mean, personally, I like to know if my apple's fresh cut or,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was disturbing. At least they're going to put a label on it. But yeah, did you hear? Farmers are like, no way.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, there's very few foods out there, that you can get that they haven't attacked yet.
No, there's quite a
And
few foods that they haven't attacked yet. But the sad fact of the matter is that they're becoming farther and farther, fewer between. There was a bill that was passed in California. Jerry Brown is such a
dweeb.
tool for most of it, but I saw back from the end of September, Jerry Brown signs a North Coast lawmakers bill banning the commercial production of genetically altered salmon.
Yeah, and he just vetoed one that was going to allow them to still put antibiotics in the beef, in the cows. So.
Says eight. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
AB 504, authored by Assemblyman Wes Chesborough, extends the prohibition of spawning or cultivating so-called transgenic salmonids in the Pacific Ocean to all waters of the state. The hatchery, production, and stocking of such fish is also prohibited. The legislation protects the state's native steelhead trout and salmon populations, Chesborough said. He noted that federal food and drug regulators are reviewing an application by a company, Aqua Bounty Technologies, that seeks to raise genetically altered salmon in the United States. And if you remember, right around the time, and I mean, it was shortly after they had announced that they wanted to produce genetically modified salmon in the United States, all of the, because a lot of them were in salmon farms, there was this mass outbreak of some unknown disease in the salmon. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And I was like, oh, how suspicious is that? Like, just as they're getting ready to come out with this GMO salmon, all the natural salmon start to get sick.
Yeah, people in California, they're real protective of their salmon. I mean, our river, even in a drought, is all the way up to the top. It's kept cold, and there's all kinds of regulations to protect the salmon here.
And what gets me is that they're so ready to do stuff like this in some of the states, but then like Drew, when he was working on his aquaponics farm, had to jump through so many hoops because he wanted to grow tilapia in a barrel. And they were so afraid with it being an invasive species that it was going to somehow get into the rivers and things. And he's like, it's in a greenhouse, in a barrel. It's like the fish don't fly. How is it going to get there? This says, quote, if these frankenfish were to escape in our waters, they could destroy our native salmonid population through interbreeding, competition for food, and the introduction of parasites and disease, says Chesborough in a statement. The only way to ensure that this never happens is to ban commercial hatchery production, cultivation, and stocking of transgenic salmonids in California. So I'm going to say, bravo, Jerry Brown, even though the dead Kennedys sang about you in the 80s. That's where I couldn't believe, like, I was a huge Dead Kennedys fan in the 80s. I was a punker, and there was a lot going on with Ronnie Reagan and the Iran-Contra scandal and Ollie North and all that, And I remember Jerry Brown being implicated in a bunch of different things. So when he got reelected this past election, I was like, Jerry Brown, that cannot be the same Jerry Brown. And it is.
We were all shocked. I don't know anyone who voted for him. I mean, nobody even imagined he'd win. And then, boom, he did. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, I mean, that's good news. That's one bit of good news. Genetically modified salmon is being banned in California. Now, any of the natural salmon that is swimming off of the Pacific coast up around Alaska, I would probably stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea why?
Radiation.
Mm-hmm. Most of that fish is irradiated. I wouldn't be eating anything out of the Pacific Ocean right now, and probably for many years to come.
I don't eat fish, period, now.
I haven't since I was 5.
Yeah. Well, they found mercury in almost every creek in the United States. That's when I stopped eating fish.
Right. Tuna always had a high mercury content. I mean, even when I was pregnant back quite a number of years ago, they'd said that pregnant women. Now I saw that maybe they're recommending small amounts. I mean, what pregnant woman in her right mind knowing? Now, let's not even talk about the head of the Tuna Association coming out going, oh, the tuna's radioactive. But I mean, they've freely admitted that there's mercury in tuna. So why would you be ingesting that?
Why would you give your kid inoculations that have mercury? Who knows? I mean, people are so dumbed down.
I'm looking here to see where GM salmon has been approved, because I was pretty sure up around the Michigan region there were some farms that they allowed it. But don't quote me on that until we get this here. Genetically modified salmon take action. Congress unites against FDA approval of genetically modified salmon. Now, we talked about Michael Taylor yesterday and the trail of destruction that Michael Taylor has caused to our food chain starting back in the early 80s. I don't know if you listened to the show or if you caught that.
I was gone that early in the morning.
But Taylor has caused issues from the early 80s. He was in one organization, then another. He went between the FDA and the federal government, then the USDA and the federal government. And he was a lawyer, and then the federal government and Monsanto, and then the federal government. You know what I mean? I mean, it's been this revolving door, and he was the one that actually was in charge when they gave the stamp of approval for GMOs. Blanket statement for GMOs being approved as safe in the food chain.
I remember that.
Yeah, I do too. Wow, there's lots of fact sheets here, but not appropriate to be reading on the air just because they're so long. Let's see. At least 30 House members and 14 senators have written the Obama administration either expressing serious concerns about the manner in which the FDA conducted its review of Aqua Bounty's GM salmon or calling for the outright prohibition of its approval for human consumption. So why isn't the FDA listening? And I thought they did approve it. I thought that they went against everything and they approved it anyway.
Well, they're all just bought and paid for anyway.
Mm-hmm. Bipartisan group of U.S. House of Representatives introduced critical legislation mirroring the Senate bill to keep the first genetically engineered food animal, aquabounding technologies, salmon, off of our plates. The controversial fish, which the FDA may approve any day now, despite widespread opposition from the public and many federal lawmakers, has potentially disastrous consumer health and environmental consequences. It is significant that Congress is united in taking a strong stand against this risky experiment. If Congress says we don't want it and you're still going to approve it, how is that possible?
Yeah, Congress doesn't seem to have much say in anything anymore, let alone our food.
I'm going to find this. Are you looking? Salmon approval.
Yeah, I am.
I want to see when and if it was approved. Here's that Aqua Advantage. Let's see. June 10th, FDA. Don't even tell me 2014. Oh, no. Yeah, I thought they approved it. June. They did. Here, I'm waiting for it to load.
Wow.
FDA.gov. Come on. It just waits until I start talking, and then everything just slows right down. Don't make me go to the other machine, because I will.
And then you'll be sorry.
Yeah, well, hold on. Because that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right, Google. You want to block my results. June 10th, 2014. Copy link location and drop it in chat. And I'm going to bring it up over here on the machine that does work. Let's go, Daddy-O. Speed it up. Here we go. Genetically engineered salmon. June 10th, 2014, the FDA has issued public comment, a draft environmental assessment related to the agency's review of an application concerning Aqua Advantage salmon, a genetically engineered Atlantic salmon. FDA's preliminary findings is that an approval of this application under specific conditions proposed in the application would not have significant impact on the environment. That's kind of like GMOs not having significant impact on your bodies. Aqua
Right.
Advantage Salmon is a product of Aqua Bounty Technologies of Maynard, Massachusetts. Okay. And so that was June 10th of 2014. There are all kinds of documents here, and I want to see whether or not it was approved, because I was pretty certain that oh yeah, GMO salmon will soon hit food stores, but will anybody buy it? Well, yeah, lots of people who are like, wow, salmon is just so expensive. Oh, look, there's this new cheaper salmon that's freely available everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's a little video, actually. We could play this. Oh,
Okay.
no, it's just a slideshow of pictures of GM salmon.
Okay.
Never mind, but we can read it. Says it's taken almost 2 decades, but the U.S. Food and Drug Administration may be close to a ruling on the world's first genetically modified animal protein. And I mean, here's the thing. What's so important about this is, do you get it? The world's first genetically modified animal protein. First. There's precedent set. Okay. Once something is approved and they say no significant impact, et cetera, then it just opens the floodgates to whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, the next thing you know, we're going to have malaria goats available to eat.
Right. Because the impact doesn't show up until later. So, it's already out there and been approved and everybody's been eating it.
Well, and they're not ever going to admit, because we have plausible deniability, that any of this food is what is causing the damage to our bodies. I mean, how many people out there have IBS now, that inflammatory bowel disease or colitis or digestive issues or autoimmune diseases? Where do you think that those just all blossomed from? Because I'm going to tell you, and this is what I started out the show with yesterday, all of my health issues over the last 20 years, I can trace back to when they first started introducing this crap into the food chain. I'm like a canary in a coal mine. I'm very sensitive to things. My mother was very sensitive to things. I didn't end up becoming sensitive until I was about 20 years old, and then my body would freak out on things. But if, like with these cashews, I ate 10 cashews and ended up with my throat swelling, my mouth, my tongue. It's never happened to me before. Out of the blue, in 2 weeks, I have these mysterious nut allergies I never had before. Right there, that's a canary in a coal mine moment. They're doing something to the nuts.
Right.
Something that they weren't doing before, because I've been able to eat cashews for 46 years without an issue. Well, give or take a few years in infancy, but they've been a favorite of mine since I was a kid. They never gave me issues, and all of a sudden, and I was having an anaphylactic reaction to it. I mean, that's not right.
No.
Unless
and
they're
that's
spraying
happening
them
across the board with people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And like I was saying, in the early 90s, they were telling everyone that the stuff was all in your head. It was all in your head. That's what they told everyone. It was all in your head. And now, I mean, what does it do? It makes us good consumers of pharmaceuticals. Look at all these medications we can now take for all these different maladies that have become commonplace. What a great market for making money.
Right. Go back to the pharmaceuticals.
Just like I was reading that they're blaming it on there not being enough money in the past, because we never had enough Ebola cases, okay? So that's why we don't have an Ebola vaccine, quote unquote, is because there weren't enough cases for it to be profitable. Notice how now we've gone through a whole bunch of different pharmaceutical companies that have stuff in the pipeline. Notice how now it's about ready to percolate to the point of profitability as we have cases blooming all over. Wow. Look at how that happens. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Aqua Advantage Salmon is a product of the Massachusetts-based biotech firm Aqua Bounty Technologies, and designed to reach market size in about half the time of standard farm salmon. The fish would be the first genetically engineered animal approved for human consumption. Ding, 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 ding. Producers say, oh, wait, where did those go? Here we go. Hold on. I should somehow find a way to mount these. There we go. My little finger symbols. Designed to reach market size in about half the time. The standard. Oh, yeah, I just read that. Producers say the salmon is safe to eat, environmentally friendly, and can feed more of the population with less resources. Wow, isn't that the mantra? Save the world. Compared to other farm fish. But last week, two major store chains, Kroger's and Safeway, joined a growing list of supermarkets that say they will refuse to sell the salmon, dubbed it a Frankenfish, and raised questions about whether consumers will buy it, even with the FDA's approval. The issue is highly controversial. Environmentalist consumer watchdogs, select supermarket chains, Alaskan fishermen, and various other groups have been voicing strong opposition to the potentially game-changing product since Aqua Bounty applied for approval in '96. Now, that's a damn long time to be sitting there waiting to say my product is safe. And here we are 18 years later, and they're still not sure. And now we're just getting around to going, oh, yeah, it's safe to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long time to have to prove your case. Before we say we've come up with a way to feed the growing population, what are we putting at risk in exchange, says Dana Pearls, a policy campaigner at the environmental organization Friends of the Earth. We really need to know what we're doing. We want to make sure that we're taking the right steps in the long run as opposed to wishing we'd done something later. Well, yeah, and they should have done that before they allowed any GMO crops out. Think about it. I mean, it's out already. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't get genie pollen back in the bottle once it's out there. And it's contaminated everything.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010, the FDA stated in a veterinary medicine advisory committee briefing that Aqua Advantage salmon was indistinguishable from standard Atlantic salmon. We have found no biologically relevant difference between food from the ABT salmon and conventional Atlantic salmon based upon the criteria evaluated. Yeah, notice that twist in words there?
Mm-hmm.
Based upon the criteria evaluated. They don't tell us what the criteria is, but you know what? I'm pretty good at science, and if you made it just a really small subset of things that you were looking at, everything will look the same at some point.
Right.
And according to Stolish, the GMO salmon tastes just as good. He testified in a 2010 FDA hearing that Aqua Advantage won out over Canadian and Chilean salmon varieties in blind taste tests.
I
Oh,
doubt
God.
that.
So nobody's grown a third arm out of their head yet. Already on the anti-GMO salmon bandwagon are Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Safeway, Kroger, and Target, among others. But other chains remain silent. Walmart, for example, said it had, quote, nothing to add at this time, unquote.
Then you know they're selling it.
Yeah, or wanting to when contacted for a comment. There's a potential for a total rejection of GMO salmon and also for a broad acceptance, says business research analyst Howard Waxman. Guys, what this is doing is that if this goes through, and I swear to God, I thought I saw something that said they passed it. Maybe it was this public comment period from June that I was remembering that it had gotten to the next step, but this will be the first genetically modified animal approved for human consumption. That will open the floodgates to everything else. I mean, that bovine, do you remember that cow that they wanted to splice with human milk genes? I talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Because breast milk is like so nutritious for you. So as as an adult, you should be getting vitamins and minerals from all this great breast milk that we're going to produce from cows. I don't know. That to me was almost like wanting to puke.
Right. Well, there is one little light at the tunnel here. It says, I just came across this article on Blacklisted News. Monsanto has reported major losses at $156 million in the fourth quarter. Figure much higher than expected. Are things looking bad for the ag business giant?
Well, go
So
ahead, read it.
yeah, it says last week, ag business company Monsanto reported fourth quarter losses below analyst expectations due to a one-time payout settlement and environmental suit, which opens up for more lawsuits, really. The biotech juggernaut announced a loss of 156 million or 31 cents per share on Wednesday, October 8th. This figure is 7 cents per share beyond what was expected by the analysts at both Bloomberg and Zacks Investment Research. According to a report by the Associated Press, the biggest blow to Monsanto during the last quarter came from a one-time payment made to settle an environmental lawsuit. Had the lawsuit not occurred, the company would have only lost 27 cents per share. Other factors involve changing trends in agriculture, the Wall Street Journal reports. Monsanto and other big ag business companies are grappling with a second straight year of bumper grain and oilseed crops that has sent corn futures prices to their lowest level in 5 years, with similar drops in soybean and wheat prices. The U.S. Department of Agriculture projects record U.S. corn and soybean harvests this year. As a result, farmers are spending less on tractors, pesticides, fertilizer, and seed, which has driven the share price of farm equipment maker Deere Company down by 12% over the past 3 months, and that of fertilizer product producer Mosaic Company by 13%. Monsanto shares fell about 13% over that period, when the S&P 500 stock index fell 2%. Despite the fourth quarter loss and ongoing international legal issue, Monsanto saw higher sales of their two key business units, herbicide and genetically engineered seeds. During the last 4 months, leading company executives and analysts alike to optimistic predictions of the coming year. Representatives of Monsanto said their confident earnings per share will double by 2019, and it has been reported that the last quarter lackluster result failed to alarm analysts. So that was that on that. But I think a lot of their loss has to be people refusing, GMO foods. It has to be affecting them too.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah, but that's a good sign. I mean, anything that damages them is a good thing.
Well, I mean, there's been an awareness. Nick's march against Monsanto globally for the last 2 years in a row, I'm sure has hurt them in some way, shape, or form. I've talked about how even my parents, who were asleep to a lot of things, really understood the GMO issue and why it's important and why these things aren't tested. And I found a story out of Forbes this morning. Just let me get there. That I was really surprised that they even opened their mouths about this. And there was actually another one that was titled, "Is Monsanto Giving Up on GMOs?" That was from Mother Jones. So maybe we'll look at that one as well. But check this out. If this computer will go there. Hey, it is. Forbes is a pretty mainstream publication, but there have been a few times that they have surprised me and put out stuff that was definitely not status quo, where they kind of have raised some red flags, and it made me kind of happy because, these are the publications that the libtards point to and go, see how stupid you guys are, because Forbes says it or New York Times says it, so you guys are dumb. And we're going to look at a couple things. I could not, I ditched it. I would not even share the link to this Discovery article I found this morning talking about how stupid people who are anti-GMO are. I was so angry.
What?
And they were quoting Natural News, and they were quoting like some of these publications that we've come to know over the last few years that have been outspoken and showing how stupid and unresearched these people were on GMOs. Now, all I got to say is I dare you, Discover Magazine, to call Dr. Huber stupid, okay? I
Mm-hmm.
dare you. Point to Mike Adams all you want, but I dare you to go after Dr. Huber because Dr. Huber is the one who, I mean, we've listened to his clips quite a number of times, and maybe we'll even find it again about the new life form that he said that he found. It's not a bacteria, it's not a virus, and it's not a fungus in the soil around these GM crops and how it passes to the placental tissue of these animals that are eating this GM alfalfa and causing spontaneous abortions and stillbirths. You know, there's been a direct impact with them ingesting this food to fertility, namely, but I'm sure that they're finding all kinds of other things. And like I said, IBS, I will guarantee you, inflammatory bowel disease did not just crop up on its own. It's
Right.
these chemicals that we're ingesting and these weird things that are being done to our body that we have no idea what they're putting into these foods. Call me a hack scientist or whatever you will, but I understand enough to be dangerous. And when I started really digging into what you're splicing, I mean, BT corn, I want to be ingesting an insecticide. I want
Right.
my kid to be eating an insecticide going, good, it's good for me. You know, you cannot tell me that that does not get into your body and into your blood system.
Right. And then in your reproductive organs, yeah, it's got to affect you. Anyone who takes in the poison eventually kills you.
Right. So this is an article from the end of last year titled Metastasizing Information About GMOs and RNA. Now, this is something we're going to talk about later, which is this GMO 2.0 that Monsanto is experimenting with right now, and it happens to be the same technologies that they are working on with these new experimental vaccinations like the one against Ebola. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't make me feel very warm and fuzzy.
No, not at all.
So, all right, let's take a look at. Hold on. Here we go. The Forbes article. Metastasizing information about GMOs and RNA, ugly glare on Union of Concerned Scientists and Consumers Union. As the Genetic Literacy Project reports, the Union of Concerned Scientists, Consumers Union, and prominent anti-GMO journalists are discouragingly but predictably silent after multiple science publications discredit an alarmist RNA study they had hyped. Can science self-correct and, in effect, protect against sloppy or politicized research? Scientists can try, but the success of those efforts depend in large measure upon the integrity of journalists and the advocates to address their own reporting mistakes. So, wait a minute. Let's see what they have to say, because they do have a way of like twisting things as well.
Mm-hmm.
A great illustration of the challenge of controlling metastasizing information has emerged with the publication of a fascinating and important article in Nature Biotechnology that sharply challenges a study that had made controversial claims that dramatically raised the fear factor about GMOs. Oh, controversial. All right, hold on. Because I'm telling you what, there was another story, and that was the one by Discover that just went to the nth degree, saying about how anti-GMO people are just the nuttiest people on the planet and that we're all full of shit. The backstory provides an intriguing look at how anti-GMO industry and the sycophant journalists work and of the consequences of flogging single studies to score ideological points. I don't care. Single studies, how about those rats? Do you remember those rats with the big fat golf ball or watermelon? No.
That was gross.
Grapefruit-sized tumors? Wait a minute. We got to put that into chat. Just for illustration purposes, for a visual while we're talking rats, GMO tumor. And that was a French study, if I am not mistaken, and they tried to discredit him horribly, and then they did another round of studies and they couldn't discredit him. So I say bullshit to all you pseudoscientists who are just following status quo and going, yep, they're safe because Michael Taylor said so. I don't know if I have a chat open, but I will now. wrong page. Let's put a picture of big tumorous rats into chat.
That picture is so upsetting.
I think we should do it to a polka. Be for the first cup. There we go. Oh, God. It's before coffee, so it takes me a little bit longer. Maybe I could do it the third time. Yay! I made it. I made it, people. How's everybody doing? Okay, off. Now let's drop that picture in chat. Big, lumpy rats. There they are. Roll over them and they get all big. Yay! Okay. So let's get back here. The controversy began when a Chinese research team. Now, I'm going to tell you what. Here's another thing. The Chinese are also some of the ones that are producing these amazing studies that we haven't seen here before about turmeric and all of the benefits in curing different cancers. Okay. So even though I might have some issue with, Chinese tariff-free, cheap-ass Walmart products coming in and not being able to buy much of anything made in the USA anymore, and us being Chinese hostages financially, I gotta say they have some smart cookies over there in science, right? And they probably all studied at our universities too.
Probably.
But I pay attention. I pay attention out of any of these other countries because they've always tried to discredit them as like third world countries. And they're not third world countries anymore. We tend to forget that.
Right.
The controversy began when a Chinese researcher team led by Chen Yuzhang reported in Cell Research in 2011 that microRNAs, that's mRNA, from rice and other commonly eaten plants altered animals' physiology in ways that could be harmful. The small pieces of RNA showed up in the bloodstream of both mice and humans, as well as in mice livers. The Nanjing University-based team concluded that this genetic material could bind to receptors in human liver cells and block the blood's natural ability to remove LDL, or what we also affectionately know as bad cholesterol. Now, let's figure that one out, right? Didn't we just say that? And I mean, don't forget, this is just rice. I mean, look at some of this nanotech and stuff that they're using. I mean, I mentioned this yesterday, and then we listened to a Consumer Reports clip that actually was on like CBS this morning that really made me kind of go, we did it, to get some of the truth about GMOs out there in the mainstream. But she had said exactly what I've been saying. There is no standards body. It was blanket approved. And these companies all have their own research departments. So everybody, as long as you could say, yeah, well, it's pretty close to the original. Like you heard that GMO salmon, we couldn't tell the difference in taste. So it must be okay. We looked at a, how did he word it? A specific set of criteria, and you couldn't tell the difference. Well, did you happen to look at the blood-brain barrier? Did you happen to look at the epigenetic circumstances of 2 generations down the line? Whether or not, all of a sudden they were growing wings or something? You know what I mean? Like there hasn't been any long-term research done on this stuff, so it really bothers me.
And most things go through like 6 weeks now of research, of tests and stuff before it goes out on the market.
It's called fast track.
Yep. Pay
Pharmaceuticals
more money,
especially.
Yeah, $1 million will get it fast tracked through.
Well, I'll tell you what. This is what my prediction has been for quite a while now, knowing all about the electronic records mandate that's been ongoing. They've extended it quite a number of times for doctors' offices, but Obamacare is going to push this. And notice how that got real quiet. Like, what's going on with that? All I'm seeing is that corporate health insurance every year now, since they've been talking about this, they've been cutting back and putting new clauses in that now make it really easy for them one day to decide that they're just going to pull their health insurance and dump you onto Obamacare. That's what I'm seeing.
Yep, me too.
And I'm one of those people that reads every word in those big document booklets to make sure I know what I'm signing at the end of the day, you know?
I know, and they hate that.
Mm-hmm. Especially for a mortgage. They don't like when you do that and you're sitting in the attorney's office.
Yeah, but you got to do it if you don't want all of a sudden, you know, you go to file a claim
Surprise.
and they go, guess what?
Yeah.
You're not covered. Look right here in this contract where you signed it.
Yep. So, all right, I want to continue here. As a biology PhD student, Anne Marie C. Hodge wrote in her Scientific American blog, and this is surprising they let her publish this, but it's probably because it was a blog, quote, the revelation that plant microRNA plays a role in controlling human physiology highlights the fact that our bodies are highly integrated ecosystems. To some degree, she suggested, we are what we eat. And you know what? It goes even beyond that because I've seen some scientific studies over the last probably 6 months or so that are proving now, did you know having sex with somebody and collecting that other person's biological material internally, that actually becomes a part, like, I guess, I mean, I guess you never thought about it, but that actually becomes a part of your body and integrates into your cells.
Well, of course it does.
Well, yeah. I mean, where else does it go? And I mean, that's kind of a horrifying thought. Anything that enters your body, I mean, unless it's water soluble, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about biology, but it's seeming that especially things that have, well, anything with DNA, which is everything, right? Any organic product. And I mean, now all these inorganic synthetic products, like I want to eventually get to, we've almost killed an hour here, but we're going to get to this RNAi GMO 2.0 agenda. And I think that's where Monsanto is planning on focusing their efforts, by the way.
Yeah, something happened really strange with my mom last week. She felt like she was going to faint. And they called the paramedics, and they took her to the hospital and checked her out. And they said she was dehydrated, where my mom drinks probably 10 to 12 large bottles of water a day. But yet they said she was dehydrated. And they kept her and hydrated her real well and then sent her home. But that's still bugging me. How can you be dehydrated when drinking that much water every day?
Well, is she in California? I mean, Dane's talked about them putting desiccants in the air. That would do it.
And that might be it, because I never heard of any such thing, you know, of someone who drinks that much water daily.
Unless she's not processing the water properly. Maybe she's just passing it out. Is she taking a diuretic to go along with it?
No. The only thing she does is drops in her eyes for glaucoma now. We got her off all the pharmaceuticals. So it's really strange. I don't know. I just don't understand it. I asked her to send me the report from what made him come up with that decision. Mm-hmm. But, you know, if we're taking something in that makes it so we can't process our water, that's a big, big deal.
Yeah, that is a big deal. And you have to remember, it makes you wonder where that water's actually going. It's got to be going somewhere, and it's got to be going somewhere for somebody's benefit, okay? Mm-hmm. Which eventually will be profit or world domination. I just talked about a few stories, and it was right at the very end of a show last week, I believe, about the oxygen. Did you see the 2 stories about oxygen?
I've seen one of them, yeah.
The one about those crystals that they've discovered now that will suck every bit of oxygen out of a room. Mm-hmm. And then there was another one about them discovering a way to hijack, I believe it was photosynthesis, so they now can produce like the synthetic oxygen.
Right, I did. That was shocked me. You know, we can make oxygen without plants.
Yeah, without plants. And I was like, that's a pretty scary thought. So now they've figured out a way to suck up all the oxygen in a room. So how long is it going to take for them to get enough of that crap to suck up all the oxygen in our environment? Or at least enough to make it highly uncomfortable, right? Put it in the chemtrails. That's a good thought. at a nano level,
Mm-hmm.
and then offer us oxygen for sale.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, have you seen? I haven't seen any really recently on this newest pig mine channel since the last one got taken down. But on the old one, there probably were, I would say, 100 videos on air apocalypse in China.
Well,
Do you remember that? I mean, they were
yeah.
all walking around with air masks on
Right, and
because
down
it was
south,
so polluted.
they have cafes where you can go in and get a shot of oxygen.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of trendy. I've seen actually in California, I thought they were doing oxygen therapy too. You can go into these bars and you get high on oxygen.
Yeah, it was California.
Yeah, I wouldn't think down south. Oxygen, though, all the fracking stuff going on down there, oil plants and chemical companies.
Oh, yeah.
You
I won't
know.
even go visit my mom anymore. I told her she has to come up here. That last trip did it. It's just so bad down there.
Where? Southern California?
Mm-hmm.
Because of LA?
Yeah, and my mom lives way out, and my mom lives in the country, and I mean, every time I go down anymore, I get sick. So I just said, no way, you're going to have to come up here. Just can't do it no more.
Well, that's good. Is she well enough to travel?
Yeah. But I mean, it's like the air is so thick down there, you can taste it. Have you ever been, it's just, I don't know, it just feels yucky the whole time you're there. My roommate and I both got sick the last time we went down. I was sick all the way home.
I'm just trying to see. The story is super long. So I don't know. All I got to say is pay attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that do your research and pay attention? Because though they will tell you that this stuff is fine and this is what we have to do to be able to feed people or to be able to survive, because we have climate change. Oh, well, we have global warming. What? Is that why we're having all these F5 hurricanes?
Hurricanes, right.
Or whatever they call them, typhoons in the Pacific, slamming the same place over and over and over and over again. And I thought I saw another one, like a very rare event coming right at Hawaii again. Did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Wow, this doesn't happen often. It's happened like twice this year.
I know. They're breaking records everywhere, and look, California doesn't have a drop of water. In fact, yesterday when I went to the store, I looked up and I took some pictures. We had all these clouds, black clouds and everything, and you could see in the breaks of them the chemtrails above them, just crisscross all across the sky. So, I don't know. Are they taking our moisture? Because everything said a storm was here. You got the wind and it got cold and never one drop of rain fell. Black clouds. So it's just strange. And people are starting to notice that here now. They're all just going, wow, we thought it was going to rain. It felt like rain. We were all expecting the thunder and lightning, and nothing ever happened.
Right. All right, I want to get back to this RNAi stuff because we're at the end of hour number 1, and this is kind of where I've been trying to go for 2 days now. What I want to do is go to Monsanto website. So I was out here last week, the week before, looking at their pipeline. I'm going to tell you, any of these pharmaceutical companies or bioengineering companies, you want to find out what they're doing, they need investors. Same with DARPA. DARPA, well, they don't need investors, but DARPA is using public funding, and so are any of these federal agencies. So that FBO.gov website, which I've been meaning to go out there, so might be a fun place because I haven't mined that in a while to see what types of creepy things they're purchasing now with our cash. But here, if you go to Monsanto under their products tab, you're going to see the first thing that's there is RNA interference in plants. Now, I've been talking about RNAi for quite a while now and about them using it in the vaccinations and especially in that new secret serum that supposedly cured the 2 first Ebola, whatever you want to call them, volunteers. All right, about RNAi, RNA interference, affectionately known as RNAi, is a natural process used to turn down or suppress the activity of specific genes. The process was discovered in the 1990s, and additional research in the area led to Doctors Fire and Mello winning a Nobel Prize for their work in 2006. Now, what's interesting, 1990s is when weird autoimmune diseases started cropping up, and in 2006, that was when they started announcing the universal flu vaccine and the Blue Angel program that was financed by DARPA using this RNAi technology and genetically engineered tobaccos to express different proteins and antigens, okay? So that's why those 2 dates are very interesting to me. Their award-winning work and that of countless other scientists has opened many areas of research in human, animal, and plant health. Today's research for the use of RNAi in agriculture spans a variety of areas, including traditional areas of plant protection from weeds and bugs to novel new approaches to increasing yields. While research continues, some of the more interesting uses of RNAi in plants includes the development of allergy-free peanuts. Whoa! Like the ones that they seem to have an overabundance of people that are allergic to peanuts now. Did you notice that? That was one of those other allergies that's just exploded everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And using RNAi to decaffeinate coffee beans. Now, that was really painful to me.
You drink decaffeinated?
No, but still, decaffeinated coffee beans today and regular coffee beans tomorrow. Remember, precedent. Monsanto has used RNAi in the development of improved oils in soybeans and as a new way to protect plants from pests that attack the root of corn plants underground. Both products can be found in our R&D pipeline. Now, remember, I told you that pipeline right there, that's the number that investors look at.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a line item in the P&L budget for every public company that has to tell how much they're spending on R&D. It's usually in the millions, if not billions, some companies even trillions, because there are a lot of regulatory things that are required before it can be approved for sale to the public. Now, we like to believe that that protects us. But like you said, there's slippery palms, and there's all kinds of other new things, and I'm calling out Obamacare and having us all in a database research database, with our store cards, our medical histories, our prescriptions, and being able to correlate all of that with, IBM's Watson is acting as a medical online resource now for diagnoses. Yeah, think about it. Think about all of our records and all of our purchases and all of our inner workings. And as we get these vaccines and end up with nanotech in us, remember, they've been able to make web servers the size of a fleck of, sand. They have self-assembling nanobots that they can program and manipulate that can get inside of cells.
That's the scariest thing to me right there.
And they've been messing with that now for 20 plus years again. Right in line with all of the stuff. So anyway, I heard an NPR, I think I talked about it last week, at like 5 o'clock in the morning, that had these 2 scientists on, and one happened to be like a biological geneticist or whatever, manipulating parts of cells, mitochondrial DNA and that type of thing to do different stuff. And then the other one was a roboticist who was working at the smallest levels with nanotech and doing the self-assembling robotics and now integrating the synthetics with the biological, doing pharmaceutical stuff, right? And they're on together like having a conversation as the two guests, and the one guy goes, our two occupations should start working together. Oh, and I was like, geez, talk about like that's exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really crazy. So anyway, let me take a look here. It's on Monsanto's page. Okay. So anyway, we'll read this again. Today's research for the use of RNAi in agriculture spans a variety of areas, including the traditional areas of plant protection from weeds and bugs to novel new approaches to increasing yields. While research continues, some of the more interesting uses of RNAi in plants include the development of allergy-free peanuts and decaffeinated coffee beans. Monsanto has used RNAi in the development of oils for soybeans and for corn. So what is RNAi? It's a natural process that cells use to turn down or suppress the activity of specific genes. This is done through the cell's natural ability to review RNA instructions inside of the cell and then, quote unquote, decide whether to process the instructions or not.
Wow, so they disrupt that.
They're turning on cell processes or turning them off. Using something that when I read this, it almost sounded to me like something that would be a comparison would be this is at the cellular level, and at the more macro level, we would have like UAVs making decisions on whether to kill based upon facial recognition. Right?
Whoa.
Think about that. Think about that.
I don't want to. I'm rocking. Stop that.
And these are these cells that they are literally programming. Okay, so in the factory, if the factory doesn't receive the information, it cannot produce the protein, essentially turning down or off the production of that particular protein. RNAi can be very specific, targeting proteins that control plant pigmentation or the oil composition within a soybean seed. Now, I started thinking about something else. You know how there have been stories out there about how this Ebola could have been targeted at a certain racial group, or how they could start doing eugenics with some of these vaccines by targeting certain ethnic groups?
Yeah.
Well, remember, that stuff's all encoded in our genes, okay? And there are a lot of ethnic groups out there that have certain genes that might not be prevalent in other ethnic groups. You know what I mean? Like, what makes you Polish? Well, I bet you they could go back through all the Polish genes and find a few specific genes that are probably exclusive just to people of Polish heritage or who have some Polish heritage in them. Same with, German and Swedish and South Pacific Islander. Huh?
Yeah, they've been looking into this for some time.
Well, right. And they found that in certain ethnic groups, there are certain diseases that are more prevalent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like sickle cell. Sickle cell is something that is prevalent in the black genome, and it's something that's passed down through many generations. And, typically you're not going to have, you still can. And I mean, there's lots of mixing that's happened in the past, but typically the black population will have a higher prevalence of sickle cell in their genes than the rest of the population. So all I'm saying is, if what this is saying right here with this RNA interference, if they literally can target a protein that controls plant pigmentation or oil composition in a soybean, they got this pretty much down to a science to be able to target specific genes that they've identified, correct?
Yes.
And this one in particular is turning something off. But who's to say that they couldn't target, turning off, I don't know, your ability to process protein?
Yeah, your immune system,
Isn't that
period.
what they just said there? That
Yep.
this was causing it to not have certain abilities to here it is. Wait. If the factory doesn't receive the information, it can't produce the protein, essentially turning down or off the production of a particular protein. That would kill. Unless you could
Exactly.
supplement that protein, it probably would die. Don't you think? I mean, if it
Yeah.
was a bad protein.
I mean, as soon as I read a little bit of this, I was thinking, wow. I mean, my imagination went on like, well, they could put these nanos in our food. They could put these nanos in the chemtrails and program to just shut us off, shut so many people off instantly.
But they're already putting that stuff in our food.
Right. But I
Since
mean,
the night.
like program them that so many people get the flu and die within 12 days or something like
They
that.
sure could.
Yeah,
They
that's so
sure
scary.
could. They
Yeah.
absolutely could. Or, they're doing all this brain research. If there's a certain part of our brain that when you start to get this oppositional defiant disorder that they put in the
There
new
you go.
DSM-5,
Take
okay?
more
If
slaves.
there's something that they identified, like your body produces a chemical when that area of the brain is lit up, boop, 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 to a certain level, and they can detect it with this nanoparticulate that's in your body and then have it go after a certain RNA string and turn something off.
That's one way to get rid of all of us because we must have something that makes us seem to have the ability to see through
Right.
all their bullshit.
Right.
Hey, that's not fun. That's really, and that's where my mind goes and I'm rocking again.
Well, this is the really bad stuff, and that's why you start seeing these hit pieces all over, like this Discover magazine trying to discredit anyone speaking bad about any. And I mean, we're not even talking. The article I read this morning wasn't even looking at this RNAi. It was just looking at GMO in general and BT corn, and about how we're just so stupid because they said that it was safe. Well, how dumb are you? How dumb are you to just believe something is safe when you can look back through the last how many hundreds of years at the deception?
Right.
Every time they tell you it's safe, you should be doubling or tripling your efforts to make certain that it's safe.
Red flag. I always go back to Vioxx. They said it was safe, and look how many people it killed and damaged.
Well, look at how many drugs you see after the fact where you get those commercials. Were you ever a patient taking,
Right.
blah, blah, blah,
The
blah,
lawyers
blah?
coming out. Did you
Well,
take this?
call this number to get into a class action lawsuit.
Right.
Did you or a loved one suffer genetic damage and die from, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
How are they allowed to do that? Why is it allowed to be fast tracked like that without?
Money.
And remember, now now the study's out there. So your R&D budget line item got removed, especially if they can play plausible deniability. Those poor pharmaceutical companies, and that is with sarcasm, got caught. So
Put on your seatbelts, people.
Yeah. Let me get back to this Monsanto pipeline article. We're doing a primer on RNAi. How does RNAi work? RNAi. Oh, we read that already twice. How was it discovered? Actually, petunias. I think that's funny because when I was a little girl, I thought petunias were delicious. I used to go into the garden and eat petunias. They would come running after me going, "You can't eat those. They're flowers." I'm like, "But they're good." I was probably about 2. RNAi was first noticed in petunias when plant biologists attempted to deepen the flower's purple color by introducing a pigment-producing gene. Wow, I really hope I didn't eat any of those genetically modified petunias. Back in 72, instead of intensifying the color, the gene suppressed it, resulting in flowers with mixed white and purple colors or completely white. Oh, I've seen those. How can RNAi be applied to help farmers? Well, scientists around the world are discovering new areas where they believe RNAi can be valuable to human, animal, and plant health. At Monsanto, our researchers, remember I said each of these companies has their own research department. This is not being done like on a global scale with all of our best scientists putting their heads together going, wow, look at this is showing that it causes people to bump into walls. I mean, isn't that how it should be? Not that I'm calling for any like global consortium to control our food supply. I think Zorie's gone. No, are you there?
No, I'm here.
Oh, all right. But wouldn't it be great to have like our smartest, best, and brightest without corporate money being involved to sway results, all working together? So when someone comes out with a result, everyone's not pointing fingers going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. I mean, let's reproduce it 100 times in unison in all of our different universities with all, and I mean, again, they're all like DARPA and DOD funded, so how can you even trust that? But you know what I'm saying? Like under the guise of some agency that has no affiliation, that has no skin in the game, where there is no profit, huh?
We're no lobbyists.
Well, there's no anything, so that we could get clean, real research.
Yeah, it's like, Gary Null went in front of a committee a few years back, and he goes, they say we don't have enough professionals to, they have 12 people on this board and they're all affiliated with pharmaceuticals. And he goes, and they say we don't have enough professionals to have a, unrelated, not connected to any pharmaceutical company. We have the professionals out there. They just won't put it together because money.
Right. Right. Well, like I was saying about the Ebola vaccine, that's their excuse as to why it wasn't ready. Not that anyone wanted to line up for it, but hey, I'd be all for the stupid people lining up for it. Yeah. Let's see what happens to you. You think it's so great. One of the things I wanted to get back to was the pipeline. There was a Mother Jones article that we started on, and we actually found that link to get into the RNAi interference, but I want to go to the actual pipeline review. This is the annual R&D pipeline review for Monsanto, January 8th, 2014. There's their looking forward statement. And let's take a look. Well, this is just for their for the stock market. They have to say our looking forward statements are based upon, blah, 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 as to what we think. So let's take a look now. The R&D pipeline delivers a record 29 advancements, signaling and what have we heard many times in the singularity movement? An exponential step in pace and breadth of R&D engines as more technology and platforms in place than ever to deliver on a total system of yield and productivity. So new platforms, they have 13 advancements, 13 new platforms.
Wow.
Next wave technology, one, and I will guarantee you that's RNAi. Oh, look, yes, it is. Through technology like RNAi, Monsanto is deploying novel areas of science in areas of technology. Now, that should scare you. Novel areas of science in areas of technology. They make seeds.
Wow.
And
full circle.
That departs from anything anyone in the industry has done. Now, color me dumb, but that statement should have us all running away in fear.
Exactly.
Anything anyone has done, ever.
Wow. That leaves so much open to interpretation.
Next gen breakthroughs, there's 8 of them. Monsanto's pipeline is delivering 3rd and 4th generation upgrades, while others are still pursuing 1st generation technology. So this RNAi is next gen, like 2.0. They're already working on third and fourth generations, and I will guarantee you that that probably has something to do with robo-bees,
Mm-hmm.
nanotech, virus-like particles, things of that nature. And then in their genetics pipeline, they have 7 advancements. Monsanto's biggest commercial advantage comes from the differential performance created by the leading breeding engine in the industry. That gives them a total of 29 advancements that they were proposing for this year. All right. So one of their R&D targets is yield. That means producing a lot more. They have higher yielding corn, yield and stress 2, second generation higher yielding corn, second generation drought tolerant corn, and nitrogen utilization corn. Now, yeah, that's why I was asking about California. I was really surprised that with all the drought that they didn't try to go after your farmers. I mean, a lot of those farmers didn't plant anything, and they culled all their cows because they didn't have food.
Right, they couldn't feed them, and look who's ahead of like the universities in California, too. You know, I think it's all connected.
Well, and you have Janet Napolitano. And
that's who I was talking about. Yeah. Wow. This is so scary.
I mean, I would, if you know any farmers in California, or maybe I can talk to Nick and have him do some research, but that would be something to ask some farmers that have been affected by this drought. Why? And
why they're not
pro or con, don't even come at it this way, just as a simple question. Why did you not pursue drought-resistant seed?
Right.
Because you would think that there would be some farmers out there that instead of losing their whole crop might be willing to roll the dice. I'm really confused why they didn't use that opportunity to get all over California. Now, I could tell you one thing, and here's something that actually we talked about yesterday, and I want to do a little bit clearer of a statement on it, is organic farming. Now, one of the things I said yesterday is that even though it's organic, and I think I mentioned it to you on Friday too, Zorie, last week, even though it's organic, that you still can have GMOs in it.
Right, unless it states non-GMO.
Well, and here's the thing. Now, everything I was reading yesterday was saying that organic farming, and they have some really rigorous rules that they have to follow to be certified as organic. But one of the things that it did state is that there is a small GMO tolerance that is allowed. I believe it was 0.9%, so it was pretty insignificant. But if there was like large-scale contamination in an area, that they might allow it, but it had to go up for review. But here's the thing. We discovered yesterday, and you said you didn't hear that, those chips, those corn chips that I was so excited to find because we could have them when we were having tacos, that say they were organic and non-GMO. Consumer Reports tested 6 different samples showing that they had 60 or 65% GMO corn in them.
Whoa, you're kidding me.
No. And it says no GMO in the label. Now,
man.
Yeah, that's majorly false advertising, if that's the case, and there should be. I agree. There was an article that originally said there should be a class action suit. It looked like they've removed that, but I think there should be. Well, they put a non-GMO label on their product and then put GMO in it?
Exactly. That's false advertising. They should be sued and made to take it off the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. Or remove it from their packaging and not use it to advertise as such. I mean, I am going to watch very closely for a retort to that. But here's one other thing. If your product says non-GMO, just know that that does not mean that it's organic. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that.
So anyway, Monsanto and their pipeline, they're also working on insect control above and below ground. Below ground control is on their Smart Stacks Pro and corn rootworm. And the corn rootworm I am going to guess is the RNAi corn that they were talking about because it said it was focusing on pests of the corn's root, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a brand new one that's still like in early production, and this must be the generation 3 and 4 GMO, third generation above ground insect protection, and fourth generation above ground insect protection. Does not tell you what materials or what technology they're using. That is in the first phase.
Wow.
Weed control, there is something called dicambra tolerant corn. I haven't heard that one yet. We also have glyphosate tolerant corn, and then another one called glufosinate corn, not glyphosate, but glufosinate corn. So there's going to be 3 of them now, not just the glyphosate corn. Let's do a quick research check on that and see what dicambra. That must be some other pesticide. So instead of just 1, there's 3.
Wow.
Come on. Dicambra is an herbicide. Brand name, Banvel, Diablo, Oracle, and Vanquish. It is a derivative of benzoic acid. Dicambra controls annual and perennial rose weeds in grain crops and highlands. It is used to control brush and bracken in pastures, as well as legumes and cacti. It kills broadleaf weeds before and after they sprout in combination with other herbicides. Dicambra is used in pastures, rangelands, and non-crop areas to control weeds. Dicambra is toxic to conifers, but it is in general less toxic to grasses. Dicambra functions by increasing plant growth rate at sufficient concentrations. The plant outgrows its nutrient supplies and dies.
Oh, wow. So we're eating food that doesn't do anything at all, period. No nutrients at all.
Yeah, it outgrows its... Some weed species have already developed a resistance to dicambria. Dicambria resistant was discovered in 1994 and has not been explained by common modes of resistance such as absorption, translocation, or metabolism. So there's questions about this pesticide as well. Oh my God.
This is insanity at its utmost.
Listen to this. The genetically modified crops, the soil bacterium Pseudomonas maltofolia converts dicambria to 3,6-dichlorosilicylic acid, which is absorbed to soil much more strongly than is dicambria, but it lacks herbicidal activity. Little information is available on the toxicity of this breakdown intermediate. Little information is available on the toxicity of this breakdown intermediate. The enzymes responsible for this first breakdown step is a 3-component system called dicambria O-dimethylase. Monsanto has recently incorporated one of the 3 enzymes into the genome of the soybean and other broadleaf crop plants, making them resistant to dicambria.
No.
Hold on.
No.
So
Yeah.
this is allowing now farmers to spray the shit on the fields, right? Making them resistant. So listen, dicambria does not present unusual handling hazards. It is moderately toxic by ingestion and slightly toxic by inhalation or dermal exposure. Moderately toxic by ingestion. In a 3-generation study, dicambria did not affect the reproductivity capacity of rats. When rabbits were given doses of technical dicambria from days 6 through 18 of pregnancies, toxic effects on the mother, slightly reduced fetal body weights, and increased loss of fetuses occurred around the 10 milligram per kilogram dose. The U.S. EPA has set a and I'm assuming that this is like some sort of borderline, the NOAEL for the study at 3 milligrams per day. In dog tests, some enlargement of liver cells has occurred, but the similar effects has not been shown in humans.
Then they've tested it on humans.
I guess, or they haven't tested it on humans, which is why it hasn't been shown in humans. And they just did their, marketing twist. I don't know. What do you think of that? So there's fetal anomalies, there's body weight, there's loss of fertility, and potential liver issues by ingesting this stuff, but it's in Monsanto's R&D pipeline right now for 2014.
Right, so they want to produce food, and no matter how much of it we eat, we will not be getting any nutrients from it too, right?
Right. Well, that's what dicambria does, yeah. So it's going to make us resistant. It's going to make the plant resistant to it. So they'll be spraying that toxicity like they are right now with glyphosate. They make glyphosate-resistant corn. And so when instead of the farmers having to be particularly careful with their Roundup and spraying it around the crops, they can just now spray the entire crop with glyphosate, and it's not going to kill the corn. It's only going to kill the weeds. That's the point of it. So now that Cambria was only used like out in the fields for grasses and stuff, well, now we're going to make a resistant corn and soybean to that as well. So now they can just spray all that shit on the crops too and not have to worry about killing the corn, just killing the weeds. But every time they're spraying that shit on the food, now it's there when we go to eat it.
Right. Yeah. And we're just putting we're if the corn that the insects are eating kills the insects, then it's going to kill us as we eat more and more of it, and corns and everything.
Well, I mean, we literally would be eating pesticide, and then you got to look at how these pesticides work. I mean, that BT, I believe, was the one that exploded the bug stomachs.
Mm-hmm. And we are ingesting it, almost every day. You can't hardly think of anything that does not contain corn in some form. Stay away from processed foods, because you don't know what you're eating.
Oh, I just inhaled a sip of coffee.
Oh no! You're supposed to drink it, dear.
I know. I took a sip. And I went to respond to you. And as I responded to you, I inhaled it. Wow, that made the whole room dizzy.
Oh, no.
I got a buzz at 10:33 a.m. Whoa. Wow. I think I almost drowned on my coffee. All right, that cup's got to move out of the way.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
All right, so anyway, let's get back to this pipeline. And the reason why I'm reading the pipeline is because this is what gets investors to invest in a company. They always state in these forward-looking statements that these are what we are working on and what we're hoping to achieve. And this is why you need to buy our stock and help finance our company, because when this shit takes off, it's going to be huge, right? You're going to make profit. It's all about the shareholder.
Money, money, money.
Money, money, money. All right, so do we read environmental impact?
Yes.
Dicambria is released into the environment by its application as an herbicide for the control of annual broadleaf weeds. It may cause damage to plants as a result of its absorption from the soil by plant roots. Dicambria is mobile in most soils, and significant leaching is possible. The absorption of dicambria to organo-clay soils is influenced by soil pH, with the greatest absorption to soil occurring in acidic soils. Dicambria is moderately persistent in soil. Its reported half-life in soil is from 1 to 6 weeks. Dicambria is likely to be more rapidly degraded in soils where there's high microbial populations, but dissipates more slowly in hardwood forests and wetlands than would be expected from the results of laboratory studies. nitrification, is that let me just look. It says that it causes, I thought nitrification was the process of rotting. Oxidation of ammonia to a nitrate. I don't know. Or is nitrification a really bad thing?
I'm not
Also
sure.
occur in drinking water, the distribution systems where chloramines are used as a secondary disinfectant. The presence of free ammonia can act as a substrate for ammonizing ion relation of depletion of disinfectant. So I don't know. Together with ammonification, nitrification forms a mineralization process that refers to, here we go, that's what I thought, the complete decomposition of organic material with the release of available nitrogen compounds. That's what I thought nitrification was. This replenishes the nitrogen cycle, which is required for plants to grow. And in a lot of your fertilizers, you have nitrogen.
Yeah.
But nitrogen is what causes algae blooms, runoff from farms, let's say, that use nitrogen-based fertilizers. But I thought that's pretty much what like cow poop was once it biodegraded as well.
I think it is.
Um,
Isn't it nitrogen that makes the plants more green?
yeah, and helps them all to grow. It's the nitrogen,
Right.
and it's from decomposition.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyway, let's get back to the slide because now I am really running out of time. Disease control is another. So I want to, you know what? Let's look at one more. So that was that Camba tolerant corn, and that's already in phase 3, by the way. They are spending $1 to $1.5 billion on this research. You know how I told you that R&D pipelines are huge? And so when they can use the population and fast track things for testing, like for release, you save them a huge line item, profit loss line item on their budget. So for this RNAi technology, that was already the second generation. That was the very first stuff that we were reading about here. No, that was the second one. 1.5 to 2 billion they were spending. Yeah,
And that's nothing to them.
That's nothing. And annual germplasm upgrades. This is this high yield, high stress, drought tolerant corn. They're spending 7 to 10 billion in research, guys.
Holy.
In drought resistant and nitrogen utilization corn. Nitrogen utilization corn must be corn that grows in areas with lots of dead stuff.
And like they're calling for a 30-year drought. How convenient.
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of money. $7 to $10 billion in 1 year.
Right.
All right. So let's, we're also
That's
going.
so scary. That is just, what is with these people? I mean, can money be that important?
Well, they're hijacking the entire ecosphere.
Right.
I want to look at what this glufosinate is. This isn't glyphosate. This is glufosinate. Not to be confused with glyphosate, it says at the top. Glufosinate, or its ammonium salt DL-phosphinothrysin, is an active ingredient in several non-selective herbicides such as Basta, Rely, Phenol, Ignite, Challenge, and Liberty. It interferes with the biosynthetic pathways of amino acid glutamine. Isn't that like one of your main building blocks of life?
Yes.
CATG?
I
Glutamine.
think so.
And with ammonia detoxification, well, that is poisonous. And if you don't have ammonia detoxification happening in water, especially, that's instant death. It has been used in pre-harvest crop desiccation. Oh, hold on. Pre-harvest crop desiccation refers to the application of an herbicide to a crop shortly before harvest. The herbicide most widely used is glyphosate, while use of diquat and glufosinate is much more limited. Other desiccants, oh, it's a desiccant, are cyanamide, clinidin, ethyl, and pyraflufen. Now,
Those all sound bad.
Yeah, I've heard of that clinidin before. Uneven crop growth is a problem in northern climates, and with wet summers and poor weed control. With desiccation, a number of advantages are cited. More even ripening is achieved, and harvest can be conducted earlier. Oh, yeah, so let's dump shit tons of pesticide on our crops first before we harvest it. Weed control is initiated for a future crop. Earlier ripening allows for earlier replanting. Desiccation reduces green material in the harvest, putting less strain on the harvest machinery. They are saying kill your crops with pesticides and then harvest them.
Exactly.
Wow.
So there's no gap in between.
That is messed up. An application pre-harvest desiccation has been applied to a wide variety of plants, including cereals, oilseed rape, which is that poisonous oil, legumes, linseed, lupins, flax. So for all you flax people who think that it's all healthy and nutritious, I'd make sure that it was organic.
Wow, flaxseed oil?
I'd make sure it was organic. Linola, maize, sunflower, kiwi, wine, raspberries, apples, soy, alfalfa, and potatoes.
That's scary. That leaves no gap. You have time in between your crop. Okay, then you turn your soil, then you plant, and then you have a crop. That's taking away that middle gap.
Yeah, it sure is. I wanted to read you the criticism that they had in this wiki entry. Criticism, and this one is in particular. I jumped from one article to from one posting to the next. This one is for glyphosate, not that glyphosate, the new one, but it says right here, glyphosate, which is Roundup, is applied to plants just before harvest and absorbed by the plants. It cannot be washed out prior to human use. Herbicides can also reach humans through meat and milk of cattle that has been fed herbicide-treated fodder. If it has been identified, it has been identified in the urine of urban dwellers who do not handle glyphosate at concentrations, and I remember there was a video on that, of 0.5 to 2 NGs per milliliter, much higher than what is allowed in drinking water. So how about them apples?
Not good.
All right, so we're going to go back to this glufosinate. Some plants have been genetically modified for resistance to glufosinate. A gene which gives resistance to glufosinate is a bar or a pat gene, which was isolated from 2 species of bacteria. There are glufosinate-resistant transgenic varieties of several crops, including cotton, canola, corn, soybean, sugar beet, and rice. Wow, so I guess rice, they're really working on GMO, huh?
They seem to be, huh?
That's twice now. Of these, canola, cotton, soybean, and maize are currently on the market. These include Bayer's. So Bayer, I guess, is working on GMOs too. Bayer's Liberty Link genes that are used in over 100 hybrids.
Holy shit.
And even better, glufosinate was found to be toxic to reproduction. And it was included in a biocide ban proposed by the Swedish Chemical Agency, but approved by the European Parliament in January of 2009. So it has been shown to be toxic to reproduction. Let's eat more of this. And I am glad that Monsanto is producing glufosinate-tolerant corn so it could be sprayed all over our crops, huh?
Yeah, the good guy.
Oh boy, here's some of this other stuff. This is for disease control. We have anthracnose stalk rot resistance. So I'm wondering if this is some sort of ground-based bacteria that is somehow related to anthrax, which is also in the ground.
Right.
It's a blight, a leaf blight, and stalk rot. So let's take a look here really quick. What is this? Stalk rot resistance. So how are we getting resistance to this stuff? It's caused by a fungus. So it would be fungal resistance. Stalk rots of corn. All right, let's see. I'm just looking to see if there's any type of manipulation. I mean, there's got to be, or what the poison is that they're putting in there. They don't say. So we'll have to leave that one for another day. Gross wilt resistance, gray leaf spot resistance. Those are those weird spots that I've seen all over trees.
Yeah, I've noticed those a lot lately.
And then they are also under other Acceleron upgrades. It's listed as Roundup hybridization system. Honestly, I don't know what that means, but boy, that sounds kind of scary. A hybrid version of Roundup.
New and improved.
Yeah. And, you know, this actually continues on forever, and this is getting to places where I don't necessarily want to go. They have been doing weed control, insect control, virus control, and bee health. Remember, they purchased that company that was trying to save the bees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to predict that they'll probably fail on that, by the way. Fail on saving the bees.
Yeah, you think? I mean, I've never known Monsanto to do anything that's good for the environment or for us.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to be out of time, so we're going to have to save that one for another day. But I do want to read the rest of this.
You know, I've been trying to find more on Monsanto's organic food that, you know, there was a big thing and then there was nothing.
Yeah, I mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah.
And they were going to put it under a different banner, by the way. It wasn't going to be listed as Monsanto food.
So are we eating it now already? You know, I can't find anything on it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. That should be something that you have a homework project now. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, so here I'm going to hop into this Mother Jones story that I had started reading like an hour ago for you guys. This is talking about some of Monsanto's new developments and things that they're doing. Are they moving away from seeds as their core business and blah, 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 and moving into other things? So, okay, it says, what about Monsanto's core business selling seeds for big industrial commodities like corn, soybeans, cotton, and alfalfa? Monsanto has come to dominate in these markets with its Roundup Ready products, which are designed to withstand Monsanto's flagship herbicide, and for corn and cotton, its BT products, which are engineered to produce a toxin found in the Bacillus thuringiensis, an insect-killing bacteria. That's the one that makes stomachs explode. Does the company have lots of novel genetically modified products in mind for this vast, lucrative sector? And this is where I got the link. Monsanto's latest annual R&D pipeline review, a document released earlier this month that showcases the company's research into new product lines, foretells all kinds of impressive-sounding stuff, but a surprising amount of the company's new research, even for its most lucrative crops like corn and soy, promise either new iterations of herbicide tolerance in BT or rely on classical breeding, one major exception to this is a corn seed relying on a new kind of GMO, RNA interference. Let's bring it full circle, people. RNA interference technology, a recently discovered way to turn off certain genes, while Monsanto plans to engineer into crops to kill certain insects.
Holy shit.
Now, I don't know. Again, color me purple, but how much would it take to engineer in some RNAi to kill humans slowly?
Yes.
And to kill humans in a way where they can turn off a certain protein that then makes you need a certain drug to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Like
Think
Ebola.
about that. Well, not Ebola,
Well, not
but
Ebola,
like
but something.
anything. I mean, now they're messing with all of your biological systems. And the fact that this second generation GMO, they're calling it, happens to be the identical technology the pharmaceutical companies are working with for all these other different diseases and things, makes me think that there is another unholy trinity here that's being formed. Because remember, a lot of this was financed by DARPA. The original money for the pharma companies was done under the guise of coming up with a new technology and a faster way to produce vaccinations to combat a bioterror attack. And many of these quote-unquote vaccinations that they call immunology were using this new RNAi technology with GMO tobacco. Okay, see the connection now? See why we're talking about GMOs and we've been talking about Ebola and these vaccines for a long time? I want to bring this full circle so you people understand it's all connected. And we even got in the drought-resistant stuff because I'm telling you, we need to find out why that didn't go crazy. I'm almost going to think maybe the organics had a lot to do with it, but seems to me that drought resistance might be losing its luster and we need to move on to some bigger and better, more nefarious things, right? And when you tie in then the electronic health records and Obamacare and them being able to track everything that happens to you and everything you eat with your store cards.
Exactly.
Think about that. And then looking at the amounts of those R&D budgets we were just looking at for the yearly statement, forward-looking statement, how much money they're spending on this stuff every year. And if they now could eliminate some of those line item budgets, that would be a savings to the bottom line, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then they could subscribe software as a service, an SAS service, to your medical records. And maybe they get rid of your name. Hey, we're not giving out verifiable named information. It's all metadata.
Exactly.
Haven't we heard that one already?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all metadata. So, all right. According to Monsanto's pipeline review, RNA corn remains in the early proof of concept stage. In a recent piece, the New York Times' Andrew Pollack reports that the technology is showing promise. That's another one of those hip pieces. Monsanto hopes to have it on the market late this decade. But it is also generating controversy even in normally Monsanto-friendly regulatory circles because researchers have suggested that it may also kill beneficial insects like ladybugs along with the targeted pests. Well, that's a good point, though no one is saying what about it passing down between generations of humans and affecting our DNA. Pollack points to this 2013 paper by Environmental Protection Agency scientists, which warned, so EPA warned, that with unfamiliar technology presented, quote, unique challenges for ecological risk assessment have not yet been encountered in assessments for traditional chemical pesticides, unquote. So RNA corn may be coming and could bring public relations and regulatory complications for Monsanto, not to mention unpredictable ecological consequences for the rest of us. Then it goes on about some of this other stuff. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, the agency that oversees the rollout of new GM crops, not much. One of 13 new GMOs, APHIS, is tracking. Only 2 are from Monsanto, and alfalfa engineered to be more easily digestible as animal feed. Oh, great. And a soybean designed to withstand harsh old herbicides called Dicambria. We looked at that. Just 2 crops are in the final stages of USDA regulation from the ballyhooed GMO seed giant. That makes me think that Monsanto's recent $1 billion purchase of Climate Corp, a company that proposes, and I did a whole section on this. Anyone who reads the Before the First Cup news ticker, the feed underneath chat, probably remembers the section I did on technology that's being used or starting to be used in agriculture. It's pretty frightening.
Yeah, it is.
This Climate Corp is a company that proposes to use GPS-backed data analysis tools to help farmers make planting decisions for a fee. Again, that is an ASP-based service. That's how all this works now. See, we give you databases and real-time information, and you pay us. That's what I was saying about the Obamacare. And in the meanwhile, to be sure, Monsanto still makes loads of money selling GMO seeds, along with their matching proprietary herbicide, and likely will for a very long time. But the facts had me wondering if the company's quiet exit from genetically engineered vegetables and placement of $1 billion wager on data services signal that the GMO giant might just be hedging its bets on GM technology. Well, I'm going to say that they're cornering all the different angles of the market is what they're doing.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Because think about it, if you actually make the seed and then provide the tracking tools that allow them to track the seed and track the growth and give you real-time reports of how your crops are growing and tying in drones and soon-to-be robo-bees. Remember, they own the bees.
Full control of every
Guys,
aspect.
they have control of all of it, yes. And then we just read that one was a desiccant. So to be able to genetically engineer a gene to allow them to desiccate plants for harvest with pesticides, that's just absolutely horrifying. All right, well, tomorrow we might get a little bit more into now the vaccines, and we're going to look at Ebola. Guys, I don't know if you saw, but that second or third healthcare person in Dallas had been on a plane the day before with 132 people, by the way, from Ohio to Texas. So put on a seatbelt. Whether or not this is real or engineered, it doesn't matter, I don't think, because the end result is going to be the same. And it seems to me that their percolation is getting ready to roll out the coffee cart. All right, we're down to the last 10 seconds. Thank you so much for being on today, Zorie. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Make sure you stick around tonight. It's Thursday night. Chuck and Drew are on tonight, as well as Mr. Chuck Ocelli. So make sure you stick around. Lots of fun always on Thursday. Catch up with you guys tomorrow.
Miles per hour, folks. Spread them around.
Take care.